Reporting from my laundry office in small town Illinois, this is Virginia Kerr, and this is where you're going to get video and marketing hacks for your online business. Today, we are talking about the concept of not creating, but documenting. I'm pretty sure, no, I'm positive you're going to like this because if you feel like you're running out of content, you are running out of things to say, you're waking up every day scrambling because you don't know what you're supposed to be posting or what to put in stories, this is going to help you. It's also going to help you with the burnout and the overwhelm because when you're documenting, you're not constantly having to find topics to talk about because once you build your strategy for your business, for your brand, you figure out who your ideal person is, then you can see content opportunities around you like a journalist. Here's an example. When I was a feature reporter before they promoted me to the morning anchor seat, which was not as great as I thought it was going to be because I wasn't supposed to be a news anchor. I'm a weirdo. And I was a feature reporter and I did not have a producer. No one was finding me stories. I was responsible for entertaining and educating every single day during the work week and doing 4 live shots with this riveting information on the station that I worked at in St. Louis. How did I constantly come up with ideas? Yes, I looked at things that were happening in the community that would relate to our audience, but I also documented things that I was doing that I knew people could learn from. Example, when I bought my first house, I would have an interior designer come over at 5 o'clock in the morning, and she would teach me how to decorate my living room. And that would teach the audience and give them ideas on how they could decorate on a budget. I didn't make a lot of money when I first started as a feature reporter in St. Louis, Missouri. I say that because I also got married in my first year when I moved here, and I documented that too on live television. I had the audience help me figure out what I was going to wear and where I was going to have my wedding. No, I did not have sponsorships. That would have made sense and been smart, but I was in the news business, and at the time, you couldn't do that. But it helped me come up with content, and it helped people follow the journey I was on, follow the story, which, by the way, that marriage did not last but just under 2 years. So yes, that's embarrassing. However, the audience got to know me through that. Now, I didn't talk about my divorce on the air, but my point is I was myself. I told them I have very little money for this wedding. Can you help me find an affordable dress? These are my 3 choices. And I would go live and try on dresses, and they chose my dress. I'm not saying you have to be that extreme, but this is a way for you to document and pull in your ideal person because they see you as a human. They see you as a person who goes through the same things they go through. This is really important for business owners. We think we have to come across as perfect, like we have it all figured out. And the problem with that is if we aren't showing people that we were where they were once, that we still make mistakes, then people don't relate to us. We don't build that trust with them. And we are not going to be able to convert as many people into customers or clients if we're not building trust with people. We're also not going to set ourselves apart if we're always using other people's material for our content. So yes, we're still going to meet the needs of our ideal person. I should probably look at my notes at this point because number 1, you need to know who you're here for and why you're here for them. Who is it that you are helping? Who is your ideal person? Why do you feel so passionate about helping him or her? Another example of this, when I started this podcast in June of 2019, I had no idea why I was doing this podcast, other than the fact that I had gone through a big revelation. Is that the word? In my life. All of a sudden, I could see all of the things I was doing as really bad habits and coping mechanisms. And when all of this came to light for me, and I could see how God was tapping me on the shoulder for so long saying, if you just listen to me, I can show you what you're doing wrong over here and we can get on with your life. And when I figured it out, I was so passionate about getting the word out to other women who had struggled with the same coping mechanisms and habits and unhealthy mindsets that were keeping them in the same place. They were constantly trying to please people. They were trying to do everything for everyone, and they were spreading themselves thin. They were not taking care of themselves. They were miserable. That's why I started the podcast. I knew God had things on the other end of that for me, but I had no idea what they were. I had no intention of starting a coaching business at that point, but I thought to myself, I can at least talk about what God is doing in my life right now, how he's using that to help me help other people, and then we'll see where it takes me. So if you were to go back to episode 1 and listen to all of these podcast episodes, you're going to see the way that it started off like this, and it slowly got focused on where we are today. Now, some people may have loved and really enjoyed the first few episodes, and then as it narrowed down into coaching and marketing, I may have lost them. That's okay. The more you get crystal clear on who you're here for, the easier it's going to be for you to stay consistent, because you're going to let them into your life by documenting what you're doing. Today in Instagram stories, got on real fast and I showed my notes and I said, getting ready for a podcast today, and I wanted to show you how I prepare for a podcast. I was teaching by using what I do as an example. That's documenting. I also probably alerted some people who didn't know I had a podcast that I have a podcast, even though I didn't say, make sure to tune in, because you don't always have to directly pitch to people when you do it this way. This is something I teach in This Is Video School. I talk about all the different types of content that you can use for your ideal person. So at the very beginning of the course, we identify who your ideal person is. Then we idea your brand umbrella and all the different content categories that fall underneath that based on you, your strengths, your unique experiences, your gifts, your personality. Everybody's different. And when you really lean in on that, there is no competition, because nobody can be you. God is the most creative designer I've ever encountered, because no one person, no one piece of art is like another. That's you, my friend. You are a masterpiece, as one of my students just talked about, how we are all masterpieces, but we just have to see how our mangled mess is all part of that masterpiece. I'm getting a little too in depth, but I wanted you to know that the first step in doing this is figuring out who you're here for and why you're here to do it. And then the next one is you need to get clear on those problems that that ideal person has and how you've overcome those problems and how you either avoid those problems altogether or how you solve those problems in your personal life. I was nervous on camera at one point in my life. I tell that story a lot. I still get nervous. One of the lessons in This Is Video School is how to get over your nerves and get your mind on right before you go live on video, because I show you how I do it. This is what I do. I'm documenting. I document all through our course, by the way. And that's what makes it so effective, is I don't just talk the talk, I walk the walk. So you can't do this effectively if you're not documenting what you really do, and your ideal person can't see that, oh, she doesn't just coach on that. She doesn't just talk about that in Instagram stories. She actually does it. You're showing them and teaching them by applying it to your life. Now, you do need to know the types of content that will build trust with your audience. And I talk about this in This Is Video School, but the biggest ones is educating people, teaching people something, and it is social proof. Again, documenting. An example of this would be when I have recorded some of our live sessions inside This Is Video School and I pop them into Instagram stories. I'm documenting by showing this was something that we went over yesterday in our live Q&A, or this is a video I critiqued in our live Q&A. I'm documenting with social proof. Social proof means there's actual proof that you are helping people get results, that you are helping people with transformations. Another example would be if you had a one-on-one session and you decided to record it and you let that person interview you, that's social proof that you're helping that person. And now you can help the masses by putting that recording out. I've done this before on the podcast. I've had one-on-ones on Zoom, and then I just took the recording and I put it on my podcast. But you also have to be transparent when you make mistakes, because people can relate to that. They can identify with that. I had someone message me or comment on a TikTok about one of the Say This, Not That videos. And she said, well, you say this all through your podcast. You better believe I did. I'm documenting with my Say This, Not That series words that I personally have used and gotten rid of, and why. I'm fascinated by language and how we can be more impactful, effective, come across more confident and more of an authority and a go-to expert in our industry when we eliminate certain words and use other words. And yes, 90% of the words I tell you not to say, I have used them, and I'm sure you can find them on a video, in a podcast, but I've moved forward. I'm evolving and I'm taking you with me. I want you to learn as I learn. That is documenting. Real quick, I gave you an example of podcast. Vlogging is another example. If you took a camera with you and you went throughout your day and you showed people the process behind the scenes, you can do this in stories by just thinking about what it is you're doing that day or the next day and saying, what would I be able to share that I'm doing today that could benefit my ideal person, by going to your content categories and going to the types of video that build that trust, and then using what you're doing that day to build trust with your audience by just simply documenting. You don't have to go somewhere else to create a moment or go to another room in your house necessarily to show something. You don't have to spend a ton of time. Now, I do believe in taking a little extra time to make your videos more interesting, but sometimes it's just sharing the information that's enough. I had a student message me right before I got on, very frustrated with the fact she couldn't get her video to a certain length and she couldn't get her audio where she wanted it to be. And I watched the video and I said, you held my attention from the beginning to end. I learned a lot, and your audio didn't bother me. Did it sound like you were not on a microphone and in an echoey room like I probably sound right now? Yes. But what was more important was the fact I could hear her loud and clearly enough that I could learn something from her. Get the content out there. Don't overthink it. And documenting does not mean you have to make it perfect and polished. This video right here that's going on YouTube right now, I'm not editing it. It's not all kinds of crazy angles and all the things that I teach inside This Is Video School and on Instagram. It's just me standing in front of a microphone in my laundry office. But the content is what you're here for and what you'll stay till the end for. And then the last thing is, and I already said it, so there you go. I didn't even need my notes. Be honest about your mistakes. Fess up when you did something that didn't work out, because we're always learning and your ideal person can learn with you. By the way, if you're interested in being part of the lifetime access that you will get if you're in This Is Video School, you can go to my website, thisisvirginiakerr.com, or find me on Instagram at thisisvirginiakerr and click the link in my bio, and you can read all about it. Lifetime access, live Q&A sessions every week in a private Facebook group, but it is a digital product. You have 8 modules with 50 videos that you get to go through at your own pace, and you don't have to be in a hurry because you got lifetime access to it. And I'll be going in there and updating things as things change. And you will see what I'm talking about when I say teach people through documenting. Don't think of it as you're constantly a content creator who has to come up with new bells and whistles. You're using your expertise, your stories, your experiences to help people out there and change lives. And the best way to do that is to be you and show up with what you're doing that day with all the things that you teach. That's how people can apply it to their lives and really see results, because it's not just you talking about it, but you showing them in real life how it works. I cannot wait to visit with you next week on This Is Virginia Kerr. Thank you for hanging out. And until next time, take inventory. and take care.